Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you happen to be listening to this, or wherever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening and welcome to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based wedding and event photographer Tabishima Ayede. I'm welcoming you guys to our maiden recording for the year 2021. This is the 3rd of January, and I believe that this is our first recording for the year. I don't think I did anything on the 1st of January. And I also like to say thank you guys for being with me so far from February last year when we started this recording. Started this podcast. So we're going to be coming up on the first year anniversary of the podcast soon. And thank you guys for listening and following so far for slightly over 80 episodes now. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. And it's my firm resolve for this year that I'm going to do the best that I can to bring you guys lots of tips, tricks, and valuable resources so that we can all up our game when it comes to personal selling, so that we can find ways of growing the business when we are locked into those one-to-one conversations with our brides and grooms and prospective customers. Because for those of you who've been listening from day one, you remember that it's a central tenet of this podcast that we believe that there are other ways to grow your business besides relying on online marketing, branding, and all the more sexier and sometimes easier stuff that is being touted over the internet these days. So those things are very important, and they are much more fun to do, and they're much more sexier. It's not as easy when the rubber meets the road and you are before the clients and you're trying to persuade them or you're negotiating and things like that. So this is much harder, and I think it's a much more useful skill that we need to work on, because it's going to have long-term effects on how much profitability that we have in our business. So welcome to today's recording. The last time I recorded, I believe we wrapped up urgency questions. That's questions that are designed to get a sense of how quickly our prospects are willing to take action. And remember that we're using a case study for G-Power, who's our guy Godwin in Lagos, who is involved in alternative energy solutions, and we found ways that they apply to those of us in the wedding and the event space as well. So now we're moving over to a new category of questions. That's the implication and need payoff questions. Now, they are different kinds of questions in themselves, but I prefer to just lump them together because when you're a newbie, the difference sometimes seems to be a little bit of semantics. So we're just going to lump them all together. Now, implication questions and need payoff questions, just to remind you guys, are questions from a framework developed by a dude called Neil Rackham. Sorry about that, I had to attend to the kids. So the questions, a questioning framework developed by a dude called Neil Rackham from research that was conducted in America, I believe, and this was back in the 80s, to find out what the best process that sales professionals use. So of course, this is built around selling in a more business to business context. So definitely not people like us in mind, wedding industry professionals, but there are lots of nuggets in that research that I believe apply to us and that we can use to make our sales game a whole lot stronger. And implication questions, need payoff questions are definitely things that we can use. Some wedding professionals already use these kinds of questioning frameworks, although they don't realize that it already has a name in professional circles, and that's what I'm going to introduce you guys to today. So, what's the point of an implication or a need payoff question? Implication questions are basically questions that you ask the customer, the bride, the groom, the parents of the bride and the groom, so that they realize that the problem is a whole lot bigger than they thought. The reason why that's important is because oftentimes they're dealing with you, the wedding photographer, and they think, is it not just photos? That's their frame of mind, whether rightly or wrongly, is their frame of mind. And so, because of that, the service that you provide is devalued. It's also a similar challenge that our friends who are wedding planners face. They just figure, is it not just wedding planning? Isn't it just telling the server which table to go to? So whether we agree with that thought process or not, it's their frame of mind. They do not realize how much bigger the problem is. That is not just pressing the shutter, and it's not just telling the server that take one bottle of Star and take it to table 6. Now, the services that we provide are much more valuable than that, and that the solutions that we bring to the table and that the problems we solve are much bigger and much grander than that. So that's the whole point of implication questions. Now, for need payoff questions, like I said, slightly semantic, but the whole point is to show how valuable your product and service is, and sometimes it's also to gauge how much they'll be willing to pay. Because in the commercial context, in the business-to-business context, let's say people who sell banking services or insurance services, you actually can ask some questions at the end of the day that will get you down to a naira figure, and they'll be able to see that, oh, okay, by taking this action, I'm going to save so and so amount of naira, and so the professional fee that I'm paying is worth it. And these sorts of techniques can be used by those of us in the wedding and the event space. So photographers can do this, wedding planners can do this, makeup artists and cake people can do this as well, and some people actually do that. So when we go into some of these in details, you'll be able to see how these apply to we wedding industry professionals. So that's where I'm going to stop today. I've just introduced you guys to what the whole point of implication and need payoff questions are. That is to show that the problem that we're dealing with, that our customers are dealing with, are indeed very big and significant, more significant than they think. And that also in cases where we can, to attach a specific naira value, or let's say dollar value, for those of our customers who are listening from abroad, we can attach a specific value to the service that we offer, and we'll be able to gauge how much it is that they are willing to pay. Especially since for those of us in the event space, especially in the wedding space, the service that we offer is not necessarily a cost-based one. It's not exactly simple carpentry where you say the wood is 2,500 naira, and so give me 2,000 for my labor. Part of the pricing model that is involved in this type of industry, for most of us anyway, is not just a cost plus model, but it actually is a value-based model. And so how much value how much perceived value does our services provide? So as a wedding planner, the actual materials and everything might only cost, let's say 1 million to procure. That's the tablecloths, the tents, the dishes, and everything else. But the reason why you're paid a professional fee of 2 million or 3 million is because of the value of the service that you provide, not necessarily because of the cost of the materials. So that's it. Implication and need payoff questions. And we're going to start exploring specific examples in the next episode. So remember, in line with the sales clinic from which this whole discussions came up with, we'll start off using G-Power in the alternative industry space. We're going to examine specific questions that I ran by him, see how he can use it to increase his own sales, and then we will show how it applies or how we can do the same thing in the wedding and the event space. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your faithful host. Well, I hope I'm faithful anyway. Tavishima Ayede. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode. Welcome to 2021, and I hope that this is going to be a year of tremendous growth and development for us all. For those of you who may be worried because we're going into, there's all this talk on the news in North America, Western Europe, about second waves and new shutdowns. There's been some talk in Abuja about possible shutdowns, and Kaduna, can't remember which other state in Nigeria. So even though there may be some apprehension around these issues, I believe that we have run this place since March of last year. So we've had some experience, some 9 or 10 months of having to deal with these sorts of things, doing business in a socially and healthily responsible manner, and having to deal with lockdowns, restricted movements, things like that. So it is my firm belief that we don't have to be afraid. Yes, some level of caution and some level of caution. But bottom line is we have run this play already. We have been running it since March last year, and so we don't need to be as afraid as we were the last time when it was just brand new. So we've run the play. We have some experience. Whatever maps Whatever maps and tools we came up with to cope last year are pretty much the same things that we're going to apply this year, just with a few tweaks here and there. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. Catch you on the next episode. Let's remember to be positive. Let's remember to be hopeful. As that old saying goes, your attitude determines your altitude. Yeah, I don't like these kind of quips, but we have to admit now sometimes there's some useful nuggets of wisdom there that we can gain. So, thank you very much, guys, for listening. Catch you guys next time. Bye.